Barrier battles. Two players build a fortress any way they can imagine using oppositely colored blocks and pieces in order to protect a king piece. Then, starting with the player who finished building first, the two players will take turns flicking their disc pieces or their king piece. When a piece is flicked, it keeps its new position. When a piece hits any block, the block keeps its new position. When a piece is flicked into an enemy piece, it is eliminated and therefore removed from the game. When any piece falls off the table, either through a missed shot or by getting knocked off, it is also eliminated. The first player to eliminate the enemy king wins the game.
I'm Kyle Levy.
And I'm Bobby Becker, and we would like to tell you our story with our founding our first company, Barrier Battles.
Problem we saw with a lot of board games was that most board games are either too complex, they're very lengthy, and the boxes are very bulky, and they're not friendly for travel and really playing wherever you want.
Yeah, and the games that weren't as complex and lengthy, like Jenga or just other simple, like kind of one-trick games, which aren't very replayable. They really have one mechanic to them. They're very easy to learn, but there's not much depth to them. So here we have like the two sides of it. There's Monopoly Deal, which is a long game duration. You can't really travel with it. It has lots of pieces, a large box. And then they have a card game version of it, which is still takes a while to learn, but and it's still somewhat complex, at least compared to our game. But there's very little rooms for expansions or depth in the game. It does have a good deal of strategy, but it doesn't have as much depth as maybe the longer, lengthier games.
Right? You lose a lot of substance when you scale down, whereas we kind of saw that as a problem.
And then especially games like Sorry or like Sorry Sliders, there are a lot of these games that like you play once or twice and they don't have that much replay value because there's not that much strategy or depth to it.
So we kind of took that problem. We said, how can we get our all these board games into a game that not only is smaller, but can literally be thrown in a travel bag and taken anywhere and played anywhere. And that's why we took the idea of barrier battles. And with barrier battles, you can play on a table like you can with any game, but it doesn't have to be a table. We've had people play on carpet, which means you can play on grass. You really can bring the game anywhere you want.
We've played tent barrier battles before. We've played mat barrier battles before. We've played on tables, 3 tables, the ground. It's a very portable game, and like you guys have seen how to play in this video, it's very simple to learn. You can learn in under a minute, but at the same time, there's a lot of different ways you can make your bases, a lot of different ways you can attack your opponent's base, get your opponent's king, a lot of different structures and fortresses you can make. So the game has a lot of depth and a lot of replay value. Because of the replay value, it really does work for all ages. Um, Kids from as young as like 3 to 6, they can play and they can have fun just like destroying bases. And then as you get older, like to 14 to 21 or age 22 plus, people still really, really like it because it does have that chess and strategy aspect. It has an aiming aspect. It has a really high skill cap, even though it's a very simple game to learn.
But something we are also trying to, and we've realized this, and we're not trying to attack the market, but it's good to keep that market in mind. Hardcore board gamers that prefer games that are more in depth and lengthier. Not even Monopoly, but games such as photosynthesis.
Like
And
Scythe,
right,
Gloomhaven, really like deep, if you're a hardcore board game hobbyist.
we're not after that market, but it's nice to know that people in that market like your game, value your game, and are still a customer for you.
It's as easy to learn as something like Connect 4, but you can experiment like new types of battle rams, which is a strategy where you shoot blocks at your opponent's base, or cannons when you slam blocks to try to get your opponent's pieces and like when it's elevated. So it really leaves a lot of room for kids to experiment, even though it's simple to learn. So that's why our main target market would probably be between the 7 to the 13. And we've played in schools. We've introduced our games to lots of different kids in different classes, and we've had the most success marketing to them.
So with our box design, we took an approach of trying to create as travel friendly and not necessarily environmentally friendly, but more along the lines of traveling light. So we don't have a rule book that comes in our box, which is kind of confusing to a lot of people. What we do is we try to provide a very general outline of our game on the back with pictures and a brief paragraph, as well as our website where people can find the official rule book for those who like, the in-depth rules and knowing everything about how to play.
And for every single sale through our website or an in-person, not necessarily through toy stores, we would always do a follow-up thank you email in there, include a video on how to play. But also, just so you know, where we were thinking with the box art, it was very simple, it was very abstract, but we try to use bright, flashy colors to try to catch the viewer's eye when they're looking by it on the shelves.
So for our first 1,500 units, which was minimum quantity production order through the company, we use Longpack based out of Shanghai. Each set before landing cost us 575. So we had a net profit per set of 1424 because we try to keep our pricing at 1999 if possible. Our initial tooling cost was $6,000 approximately, and with that tooling cost, you don't have to pay it again if you choose to use the same tooling and everything with that. So that's a one-time cost. For our first 2 months of sales, we had approximately 400 games sold. And that was with $0 of advertising, and a majority of sales took place online.
Yeah, and then for the next 6 months, we plan to sell out completely of the rest of our 1,500 games. We'll be using a lot more retail or pop-up shops. We plan to give ourselves a little more flexibility of advertising costs. That's through Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram ads, just trying to experiment, learn the ropes, try to find the best way to scale the business and find a way to put money in to get consistent sales out.
And that's also a lot come from the whole, COVID pandemic with pop-up shops and retail demo days not really being possible.
So the next phase, if we were to do a jump to 10,000, then our cost per set would drop to 463. The total production would be 47,000, and the projected advertising cost we would use would be 5,000.
Numbers are very generic, and while they are accurate, they are ideal, and they are if we did exactly what we did first round, meaning we use the same tooling, which we could use wood, and that would lower our price. Advertising $5,000 is just a price we think would be the next step for doing a larger quantity. And as far as funds for round two, from our first round, we are planned to have around $20,000 net profit, and we have invested some of that money in MTS, and we need remaining funds would be 30,000, which we plan to raise using other like forms like Kickstarter, potentially investors, or different pitch competitions and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And as Kyle said, we're constantly debating ways in which we could make it cheaper, whether it's making a cheaper box, dropping the bag, changing to wood. Right now it has a provisional patent, and we have until October to make a decision if we want to invest the money to make a full-fledged patent. And
that's leaving us enough time to fully work it out before we have to officially file.
And just so you guys would know, the estimated cost, we've talked to an intellectual property lawyer, would be anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, which is relatively cheap for a utility patent, which is what we would get. And just while we're on intellectual property, Barrier Battles is trademarked, and it will be for the next year until.
Yeah. So a little more in depth on what we've done, aside from sales, we participated in the Youth Inventor Challenge at Chicago Toy and Game Week, which was held end of November of 2019, where we won Best Presentation, and that yielded us a toy fair trip. So we were in New York for about 3 days. We spoke to a handful of companies potentially about licensing our game. And while we haven't officially agreed to any company about licensing, we are still in talks with some of these companies. But also from Toy Fair, we learned just a ton about the board game world, and not only about our game, but about how to successfully develop a game and get it to your audience and really attack your market.
Yeah, I would second that. I think we learned a lot talking to people who are in the board game industry for years and years and years, not only about the industry itself, but a lot about how it applies to business in general, about how to market a product. Um, and as Kyle said, we talked to multiple different companies about making a licensing deal. We're still in contact with most of them. The idea would be they would give us a certain, if we were to go that route, they would completely fund the next round. They would give us a certain percentage of the profits. Um, and as long as they keep hitting a certain amount of sales per year that we specify in a contract, whether it's 10,000 or 20,000, then they will continue to have rights to sell our game, and we will just be profiting from that.
And just a little more in depth on Toy Fair, we were with her name's Alicia Alexander. She is the head of Chicago Toy and Game Week, and she's the one who kind of took us on our first day tour. We spoke with her husband, Mr. Dan Klitzner, who is the creator and founder of Bop It and Perplexes. So we kind of had a unique, and he did not publish any of his ideas. He simply created them and then licensed them. So we kind of shared our side. He kind of shared what he does. We talked to a lot of experts in the game field we talked to I'm forgetting his name now, but the COO at Mattel, and we spoke with Tanya from Hasbro, who I don't remember her position, but she's loved by everyone in the game community, and that really provided us some very valuable information on kind of our game and how we should bring it up.
So in terms of just the community that we've been, harboring, we started our first tournament last summer with 3D printed sets. We were able to get 15 people. A lot of it was just close friends and family, or close friends, really. And that went actually surprisingly well. We were able to do a full tournament around an hour and a half. It was really cool. Congratulations, Salman Podorowski, for winning. And then since that, at our school, we've been creating a Mature Barrier Battle Club. We have up to 30 participants, even more sometimes. And we're constantly doing tournaments there, playing other game modes of the game, experimenting with the game style. And it's really has created a home at the New Trier.
And I'd say that the fact that we only have one tournament posted on this presentation doesn't do justice to what the community we've really founded at New Trier and across the North Shore. Like Bobby said, we could see anywhere from 20 to 30 people coming out weekly. And these aren't people who are there for the snacks, because our snacks are not great, but they're there for just getting immersed into the Barrier Battles community and really the game. And we've played modes, we've reenacted, famous battles. There's so much creativity that comes along with Barrier Battles. We've played football, and that's a whole complicated game mode. But with 42 pieces, you can do so much, and it's the only limit is your imagination.
Yeah, and truly one of the great things about it is we let people experiment themselves and create their own game modes with the base game of Barrier Battles. And one of the cool things is a community that started off of really just close friends and family has really expanded to people outside of who we originally knew, which to me is a sign of success that we've had in growing Barrier Battles and growing the community around it.
And with everything we've done, we owe just lots of thank you to our community. And through that, we have done some philanthropic work, such as this one on the presentation, Misericordia, which we are board members of. And we did a raffle where we gave away a 3D printed and laser cut box that we designed and created. We raised around $700.
In terms of now, we are currently doing a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity. which is the school's go-to charity. It's just raising money to help people buy affordable homes to live in and to build homes for people. And then after that, we're planning to do a fundraiser for food bank to help people during the times of COVID-19.
We're not really making money off of each game. We are selling our games still for $20. We do free shipping if they're on the North Shore, and we're relatively flexible with North Shore as far as, we allow Evanston, we allow Deerfield. But we're donating $10 a game. So we're really only making $4, and that's, covering gas to drop the game off.
Just overall final thoughts. I'm very happy to do this in high school and to run barrier battles. I've learned a lot. We together have overcome a lot of barriers. We've battled right through them. And just for talking to manufacturers, dealing with grown-ups, I think we have both grown a lot from this experience.
And any feedback we can get from the viewers of this, we really appreciate, because feedback is invaluable.